Well, I always enjoyed the the history of the Reformation, and I felt there was far too much emphasis on Luther and Calvin. Luther, because he was the one who really he lit the fire. Calvin was an upper class type, you know, brilliant writer. We owe him a great deal. But the trouble is that some of his successors, took what is known as Calvin to a very harsh degree. But Zwingli was a brilliant preacher. He was a warm guy. He had been a chaplain in the Swiss mercenary armies. Zwingli was, I think, a neglected reformer, and he was much more influential than we realize. Yeah, uh, he he when he had a debate with Luther about the sacrament, and Luther held up the cushion. This is my body, but it was all bluster. Zwingli calmly, quietly, biblically, has given us a satisfactory and biblical presentation of what the communion means. And if only people read Zwingli a bit more rather than Calvin, they would get more out of it. Zwingli also was a brilliant scholar. He knew the entire New Testament off by heart in Greek. He was an academic genius, as were Calvin and Luther. These men were very powerful. I think the balance between the Old and the New Testament. He was a really good scholar, and all that is in the New Testament is in the Old, and all that is in the Old is revealed in the New, and he had that lovely balance. Now he was a chaplain to the forces, went with the men on the battlefield, and unlike today, where most people have no concept of the soldiers of that period, the Swiss mercenaries, were a really different quality. They had a good educational system, which is still true today. They well educated country. Zwingli was a Swiss. Calvin was French. Zwingli being brought up in this democratic situation, and that made him question some of the things that were going on in the Roman Catholic Church. And of course, he was a modest student as well, and those who succeeded him were. And of course, when he started right through preaching, he preached for a month on Matthew's Gospel. And of course, in the end, he had to go into the Grossmünster because St. Joseph's, though it's a large church, was just too small. He preached every day for a month. And the other thing was he was so sensible and inspired younger men. He was only 46. He died on the battlefield as a chaplain. He shouldn't have gone at that time. But his successors, Bullinger and that crowd. And the interesting thing is, Thomas Cromwell, somebody who's I never fully understand this man. He was a crook, and yet he wasn't. He certainly handled Henry VIII until the Anne of Cleves disaster. He Zwingli influenced our concept of the communion and so on, and that is a great thing, instead of going up to an altar, the church sits round the table and so on, and Thomas Cromwell was very impressed by things like that, and he sent English theological students to Switzerland, and there's a street known as the English Street where they met Bullinger. They didn't meet Zwingli, I don't think. Erasmus, much underestimated, a truly great, and a great influence for good. If the Roman Catholic Church had followed him, they may even have been some sort of reconciliation. But of course, that's the way of history. It's not to be. By the way, he was the son of a priest. He was born out of wedlock, basically. But apparently, his father was quite an able man.